And if service to humanity, are the Haitians any better than the Congolese who are suffering down here? Are they any better than the Kenyans in Baringo and part of the northern frontier who are being killed by bandits? They must still follow the laws of Kenya in how a treaty gets the full force of law in Kenya and how it ends up binding the Republic of Kenya. Anything short of that is illegal, null, and void.
Hello there, very good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another interesting episode of the Candid Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. Such a pleasure to always have you on board. My name is Evan Sokinyi. Well, welcome to Kenya's most comprehensive political and public governance analysis show. Remember, this is your go-to point on everything that is actually taking place in the country. And as we always promise, is that we'll bring you up to date with comprehensive analysis of all that is taking place in this country and, of course, across the borders. Welcome to the show. Today, I'm joined by Wakili Willis Otieno. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite great.
Yes.
Nice to have you back again on this channel.
Thank you.
And specifically on the Candid Talk. And of course, we are more than happy and proud of our viewers who've been actually very supportive to us since we began this session up to now, that we are here and we are actually continuing with the journey. Welcome and thank you so much. Now, Wakili, I want us to have this conversation here. Now, first and foremost, the Haitian president, not actually president, but the prime minister of that particular country, was in this country to sign a bilateral agreement with the president of Kenya. That is the days after the court had actually stopped the proposed deployment of 1,000 police officers from Kenya to that particular Caribbean country therein. Now, a number of Kenyans are asking, does the signing of that bilateral agreement between the Prime Minister of Haiti and the President of Kenya solve the kind of constitutional crisis that was actually cited by the court when they stopped the deployment of police officers therein?
The first thing that you must note is that the reciprocal agreement is a treaty.
Okay.
And under our Constitution and the Ratification of Treaties Act, any treaty that is signed between Kenya and another country is binding. It's part of the laws of Kenya. And it only becomes part of the laws of Kenya if it is tabled in Parliament and Parliament to approve it. That reciprocal agreement that was signed between Ruto and the Haitian Prime Minister has not been tabled in Parliament.
Okay.
So to the extent that the agreement has not been tabled in Parliament, it is contrary to the Constitution and the Ratification of Treaties Act. So President Ruto cannot, at this point, move ahead and start deploying our forces to Haiti because he has not followed. He is attempting to follow the law, but he has not followed the full rigmarole of the law. The next step is for him to take that treaty that he signed with the Haitian Prime Minister to Parliament for debate and passage. Number two is for him to take a flight to Haiti and do a needs assessment to assess the situation in that country and determine if indeed Kenyan police officers are qualified to attend to the kind of mayhem we are witnessing on social media and on news is happening in that country. He cannot be traveling to all over the world and he has never sent Kenyan officers to any of those countries he has gone to. And the one country that he has attempted to send Kenyan police officers, poor people, children, he didn't want to go. Let him go to Haiti himself. The Haitian Prime Minister has come. He has assessed, he has seen our security officers, he has seen the state of our country, he is satisfied that we can deal with the security issues. Now, it's only natural that the reciprocating state, that is Kenya, should also have its president go to Haiti and do a needs assessment. So assess the situation in that country, determine if the kind of reinforcement needed requires police officers or military personnel. Then we will say, if Parliament approves it, then it is good to go. We can now send our police officers. As it is, I do believe that it is still illegal for him to try to sign an agreement without involving Parliament, for him to sign an agreement to commit our officers, our innocent Kenyans, to a cause that they are not even trained to undertake, to a country that they even speak a language Kenyan people don't speak. That now you are sending them there to become the policing officers in that country. You are actually sending these young people to slaughter. Because the gangs that are marauding in Haiti, those are battle-hardened gangs. They are not the kind of protesters Kenyan police are used to dealing with here in Kenya, or magas. Those are people who are owning military hardware. Do you just send a policeman who is trained on civilian policing to deal with that kind of a situation? So it's illegal. And that signing of the agreement by itself will not, in my view, deal with the questions that have been raised in terms of this deployment.
Okay, I want us to get into the constitutionality and legality of this agreement that supposedly was signed between the Prime Minister of Haiti and the President of the Republic of Kenya. Now, one, I'm made to understand that this kind of agreement, or rather reciprocal agreement that should be signed between them, that kind of arrangement should be happening between a government to a government. In the absence of a fully functional, legitimate government in Haiti, how then would this kind of agreement actually legally bind?
You know, to the extent that the Prime Minister of Haiti, the acting Prime Minister of Haiti, is presented as the legitimate executive of that country. Yes, he can represent the Haitians in any agreement. To the extent that William Ruto is presented as the President of Kenya, yes, he can represent the people of Kenya in any agreement. But each side must come and comply with the tenor and the letter of their laws. With regard to President Ruto, he must comply with the Constitution and the Ratification of Treaties Act. If he proceeds to sign an agreement and implement it without adhering to the laws of Kenya, then that agreement is illegal. And Kenyan states will not be bound by the content of that agreement. So I am of the view that to the extent that that agreement has not been tabled before Parliament, has not been subjected to public participation, we have not passed it in our Parliament as part of the treaties that are binding the Republic of Kenya. There is no binding agreement between Kenya and Haiti. What exists is an agreement signed by President Ruto and the Haitian Prime Minister, which does not have the sovereign authority of the people of Kenya. The president is a president by dint of the law and is bound to follow the law when executing the functions of that office. Can he take that agreement to Parliament? Can Parliament send that agreement to the people through public participation? Then we will give our views, and then Parliament will vote. If we are not satisfied with that process, we still have an avenue of going to court to challenge that agreement, like has been done before. Remember, from the inception, the Kenya Kwanza administration has been dealing with this issue of deployment of our police officers in disregard of the law. They didn't even sign this reciprocal agreement because they wanted to. It is because the court ordered them that there must be a reciprocal agreement. That was the first step. The second step is the court did not tell them that now ignore the law in signing the reciprocal agreement. No. They must still follow the laws of Kenya in how a treaty gets the full force of law in Kenya and how it ends up binding the Republic of Kenya. Anything short of that is illegal, null, and void.
One of the fundamental questions that was actually raised in that particular case that was actually tabled at the High Court by the Third Way Alliance Party leader, Dr. Kuru Aukot, was the issue of defining between a service and a force in relevance to the police. And according to the judgment, it is not the mandate of the National Security Council actually to deploy police officers in such kind of places. Now, has that issue been addressed as well with the coming of the acting Prime Minister of Haiti? He has to pave way for their deployment there.
But that is why
what is it that will change?
That is why we say the tenor of that agreement must be made public. Parliament must debate it so that we are able to get the full picture of what is the nature of engagement that Haitians are seeking from Kenyans. As it is now, no one has seen that agreement outside the executive. They've kept it under wraps. They're the only ones who know what they've signed. And we are saying, as per our law, that agreement needs to be tabled in Parliament. Parliament must take that agreement to the people of Kenya in public participation. All of us must know, are we deploying a police force or are we deploying a police service? If they are deploying a police force, we don't have a police force in Kenya, as you rightfully put it. What we have is a police service. A police service that is meant to deal with civilians. That is their training. That is their deployment. Our police service does not know anything to do with military or armed combatants. Questions of armed combatants, like the ones we've seen, the people marauding on the streets of Haiti, can only be dealt with by military officers. Those are the ones that maybe they should be asking us to deploy to them. Then, if we have an agreement or we have a UN commitment to contribute a standing force, then we'll go to a military and deploy them. And then we deploy them knowing very well that they are going there, fully armed to the teeth, that if need be, they can engage in adequate combat. But then the question that even when this matter goes to public participation, but Kenyans should ask, of what strategic interest is it to us to engage with Haiti? What business do we do with Haiti? What is the nature of our relationship with Haiti? That we must now feel the need to send our officers to Haiti. Look at what is happening here in the northern frontier. We have marauding gangs in parts of Baringo, West Pokot, and Turkana, who are causing deaths to innocent Kenyans every day. The northern frontier parts where Al-Shabaab IEDs are exploding every day. Now, we have our own challenges. Of what strategic interest is it to us to ignore our own challenges and send our officers to Haiti? If it's a question of service to humanity, there's a problem here in DRC. Africans are being killed by militias. Why don't we deploy them to DRC? At least in DRC is one of our large trading partners. It's a country that's of strategic import to us as a nation. So what is our priority to Haiti? There's not even a single flight that leaves Kenya to go to Haiti. There's not a single product that comes from Kenya that is sold in Haiti. And also, in converse, there's nothing we buy from Haiti. So what is this fascination? What is this obsession with sending our officers to Haiti? Haiti is very far away in the Caribbean.
The president is saying it's service to humanity.
And if service to humanity, are the Haitians any better than the Congolese who are suffering down here? Are they any better than the Kenyans in Baringo and part of the northern frontier who are being killed by bandits?
But does that prevent us
humanity,
from standing in solidarity?
No. You stand in solidarity once you've taken care of your own house.
Okay.
So start where you're closest to you. Start in Baringo, go to the northern frontier. Once you deal with those questions of insecurity, then go to DRC here. Don't go far. Deal with the question of standing with humanity here in DRC. And then do a scan of Africa continent. We have many countries that are having issues of stability. Go to Burkina Faso. They're having an issue in the northern part with Al-Shabaab. So go to those countries that you can deal with humanity. Because Haiti is next door, very not far away from America. United States. They have the best police service, I believe, and the best equipped military. Why can't they do it? It's their neighbor. So it's a question of standing with humanity. They have neighbors within the region who can do it. You have Mexico, you have America, you have Canada. You can even go to South America. You have Brazil. Those are very large economies. Very well equipped militaries. They can stand with humanity in that region. But why are we trying to mourn more than the bereaved? Because the immediate neighbors of Haiti are well equipped. They are economically more stable than Kenya. They should be the first responders. No, if there's a fire in your house, you don't expect someone to come from Turkana to put out that fire. When your immediate neighbor here in Kilimani has not arrived, you will expect the neighbor here in Kilimani to be the first responder to help you put out the fire before you put an obligation on the Turkana to arrive with his bucket of water. In this case, Kenyans are saying, oh, let's be the first ones. We are more than 10,000 kilometers away from Haiti. And they have neighbors surrounding that country. They can respond. Why can't they do it?
Okay.
They should do it. And as Kenyans, we deal with the emerging challenges that we are facing internally. And we've said here in North Rift, just last week, a Samburu MCA was killed by bandits. A chief was attacked. We deal with those ones first. Okay. Here in Laikipia, a rancher was killed. Deal with those ones first. Once you've dealt with those ones, go to Northeastern, where the Al-Shabaab are raining havoc. Deal with them. Then go into Somalia. Don't even go to DRC. Go into Somalia. Sort out that country in terms of security situation. The parts that are controlled by Al-Shabaab. Once you're done with that one, go to DRC. help restore order there. Once you're done with the African continent, you've gone even to Burkina Faso, parts of Mali. Once you've done with this continent, now you can start scouting across the world. Who else needs?
But of course, you're mentioning these countries, but of course, our country has had several missions in those specific countries that you were talking about, especially with the help of the AU and all that kind of security lineup that we've seen. Actually, there was that mission of KDF in Somalia, the mission in DRC recently, and all that. So they've been actually.
How they concluded the missions. So you conclude the mission.
Okay.
Because you say it's about humanitarian response. So you conclude your mission that you're involved in.
Okay.
Conclude them successfully, save humanity, then you come back, then now say, since we've successfully concluded this mission, we can now go to Haiti.
Okay.
Or we can go to Dominica, whichever other country you want to go, 10,000 kilometers away from your country.
Okay, be that as it may, the situation in Haiti is out of hand right now. As by the time that we are recording, actually going on air to produce this particular show, the whereabouts of the acting prime minister of that particular country is unknown. And the gangs there have taken full control of that particular country, releasing prisoners from prison and saying that the prime minister should not actually be there or rather step foot in that particular country. So he's not yet back there. What picture does it actually paint to us while that is the kind of situation that is back there and our president is still in the country, still hell-bent on sending 1,000 police officers from Kenya to that particular country?
That is why we say President Ruto should be the first one to visit Haiti.
Okay.
Because the one he signed the agreement with, as you're saying, we don't know where he is. Maybe he signed the agreement and went to Dubai or some other island. Him is having his peaceful, quiet time. Why can't Ruto and him take a flight to Haiti together, meet those marauding gangs, and attend to the challenges? They assess, he tells us, this one, we are going to deploy officers, we will not give them G3 rifles. We will give them AK-47, or we will give them bazookas. We don't know that. Let him go to Haiti. Because you can't be having someone signing an agreement with you to send your officers. Himself is not going back to that country. Let him go back to his country. Let him be at the airport to receive his guest of honor, President Ruto. Then they do a guard of honor. Then Ruto assesses and comes back to tell Kenyans, I've assessed. The place is just needs a few police officers. We are sending, in fact, not even 1,000. We can even now send 500. Because maybe the security now is controlled. Let him do that. And if that is done, there will be confidence in the people.
You think Ruto must actually visit?
He should visit Haiti. For us to put closure in this matter, President Ruto needs to visit Haiti.
And assess the situation.
Assess the situation and tell us how many officers are needed there and which kind of equipment are needed when deploying these officers. Once that is done, our parliament will vote on the ratification of treaties bill, this reciprocal agreement, and we can deploy our officers. I may even be one of the people who offers, if need be.
He already has the information on how hot the ground is. So why?
So let him go and address us from that country. Yeah, let him go and to tell us that the situation just requires policemen. Nothing stops him from going to Haiti because he was visited by the Haitian Prime Minister here. So it's reciprocal. The Prime Minister, the head of state government there has come. Let him also go as reciprocating state to visit him in Haiti. They signed agreement. They even received now the officers. What we signed in Kenya, we are now reciprocating. We are now in Haiti. Here are the officers I am delivering to you. So it's reciprocating. Why is he not going there when his counterpart has come? So everybody should, that's what it's called reciprocal. The head of government there has come this side. Let the head of government this side also go that side. Then the officers can go to execute the agreement. But this thing of saying it, we are deploying people, poor people's children, because these people will come back in caskets. That's a mission that is doomed from the beginning. Are they trained to deal with marauding militias, like what we are seeing on TV? Are they trained? That's the question that is begging an answer. Are they equipped to deal with that kind of mayhem?
Okay.
You don't just play with human life casually like that. Because the consequence of that mission, if it fails, will be dire on those people who are going to be sent. Families will lose their loved ones. These are the concerns. It is not that Kenyans are saying we don't want to help our brothers in Haiti. But the nature of deployment must be one that takes into account your capacities, the threats that you're going to deal with, and guarantees your safety.
Okay.
Of what help is it to send 1,000 police officers and all 1,000 police officers die? We want a responsible deployment of our men in uniform. And when they are deployed, we expect to receive them at the airport as heroes, not in caskets.
And you're talking about legal deployment there.
Legal deployment thereof, and that takes into account the threat, the needs, the capacities, and the equipment necessary to complete the mission.
Okay.
That part, we are not being satisfied. I don't believe any Kenyan, any sane Kenyan, will refuse to serve humanity or to help the people of Haiti. They are our fellow black people. We owe it to them.
Okay.
But we are not going to send 1,000 Kenyans to die just because we are not prepared when deploying these officers.
Okay.
That is what we are calling out. Bullshit being served on us must be called bullshit.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Wakili Willis Otieno, who is a constitutional lawyer and public governance policy, of course, expert here, telling us that the president should actually reciprocate the kind of visit that was done here by the acting prime minister of the Caribbean nation, that is Haiti, so that he can actually assess the situation and come back here and tell us whether it's right for us to deploy police officers in that particular country. Well, those are his words, but of course you can interact with us, you can weigh in on this conversation and tell us what you think about the kind of arrangement that is actually being worked out between the Kenyan government and the acting government of Haiti as a country. Well, do not fail to tune into some of our programs that will be coming up next. Jidel Kabiro is always here. And remember, Professor is also back to this particular channel. Richard Mwenje is also part of this family, and he'll be bringing you up to date with analysis of all that is taking place in this particular country. Do not fail also to connect with us and talk to us via our various social media handles, be it TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, or even Instagram at Evans Okinyi. That is, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stop this conversation at this particular moment till we have it again. Have yourself a lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.